For this project, I'm gonna be using Karen Cotton Ripple Cakes. This is the color Meadow. It is a weight 3. They do recommend using a 4mm hook, but I'm gonna upsize just because I want some drape in my project. So I'm gonna be using a 5mm hook. You will need scissors, a darning needle, some stitch markers are always useful, as well as a tape measure because this is made to measure. So we're gonna be measuring the width that we want for our vest. All right, so to start, you can either measure a top that you already have, the width to see what kind of fit you'd like. I'm gonna be making mine 16 inches wide. So I'm gonna start off with my yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot. You're going to chain any amount in a multiple of 2, and you're gonna wanna chain the amount of your measurement. So me, I'm gonna chain until I have 16 inches. So I made a chain of 53, and again, your chain has to be a multiple of 2 plus 1. Now for our first row, it's gonna be double crochets, and we're gonna start our first double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4 in this one here. And to do a double crochet, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. You're gonna continue. So once again, yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you're gonna keep going like this all the way down, and your first row is just double crochets. All right, so at the end of row 1, you should have 51 stitches, and the first one here that does count is your turning chain, so that does count as 1. Now for row 2, we're going to chain 1. And your chain 1 doesn't count as anything. So now we're gonna be doing an entire second row of double crochets, and you are working into your first one. So yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's your first double crochet, and you're gonna continue doing double crochets for the entire row 2. So here's the end of row 2. Now I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And now we're gonna start our row that has the sort of holes in it. So to start, in the first stitch, I'm gonna do a double crochet. And now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm gonna skip a stitch from my previous row and work into the next one. So again, it's still double crochets, but after each one, we're doing a chain of 1 and then skipping 1 and going into the next stitch. So chain 1, skip a stitch, work into the following one, chain 1, double crochet into the next one. So as you can see, it's forming the sort of openings that we have in our vest. So you're gonna keep going down like this up until the end of your row. And we're actually gonna repeat this row 2 times. So you're gonna have 2 rows of double crochets and then 2 rows of this row 3 that we're doing right now. All right, so I just completed row 4, which was the same as row 3. Now for row 5 and 6, we're repeating 2 rows of double crochet. So exactly the same thing as row number 2. So I completed row 6. So like I said, the 2 last rows were double crochets, and now we're gonna be starting the armpit decrease. So I'm going to do as usual and chain 1 and turn my work over. And now instead of working into the first stitch, I'm actually going to skip this one and I'm going to work a double crochet into the second stitch. So that's your first double crochet, and now you're going to be repeating the sequence of chain 1 and then skipping 1 and placing a double crochet in the next stitch. And again, you're just going to repeat chain 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch but skipping 1, chain 1, continuing on this same sequence, and I will show you what to do at the end of this row. Okay, so I'm almost at the end here, and as you can see, you have 3 stitches left. So I'm going to be doing my chain 1 as per usual, and I'm going to work my double crochet into that second last stitch. And I'm actually going to leave my last stitch unworked. So this row is essentially decreasing 1 at the beginning and 1 at the end. So for the next row, I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to turn my work over. Now this row is a little bit different just because if we were to do exactly the same thing as the first one, our stitches would not align properly with the previous holes that we have. So there's going to be 2 double crochets side by side here at the beginning. So you are going to skip the first one like we just did the previous row because we are going to be decreasing again here. So now what you're going to do is you're going to work a double crochet into the second stitch. And you're also going to work one in the third stitch. And now we're going to continue our sequence. So we're going to do a chain of 1, skip 1, and then work on top. And next, chain of 1, skip 1, work on top of the next one. And you're going to continue working this, and I'll show you at the end of this row what it should look like. So once you get to the end here, it's going to be sort of a symmetrical stitch as your stitches here. So you have 2 stitches left. You have the one in between these 2 and then your last one, but we are decreasing again. So you're going to do only 1 double crochet in your last stitch, in your second last stitch from the previous row. So you're ending again with 2 double crochets, just like at the beginning here, we had 2 side by side. This, like I said, just ensures that your squares are aligned in your vest. So that is the end of row 8. And now we're going to be doing 2 rows of double crochets, and they're also going to be decrease rows. So I'll show you how to do that. So you're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to skip the first stitch and we're going to work directly into the second stitch. And you're going to be working 1 double crochet all the way down. And at the end, you're going to be skipping the last stitch. So you're going to stop at your second last stitch because, like I was saying, we are decreasing in this row as well. And you're going to repeat this row 2 times. All right, so I just finished my row. So this is row 10. And now what we're gonna do for the next 2 is we're gonna do 2 decreases, just like these 2 rows here. So you're gonna repeat row 7 and 8 right here. So do that, and then I will show you how to continue on. So here at the end of row 12, you should be down to 39 stitches. I had 51 at the beginning, like I mentioned. So if you want to count your stitches and make sure that you have that amount. And now we will continue on. Now we're going to be just working our panel straight up. So you're going to be repeating the rows that we did at the bottom here that were just straight. So for the next 12 rows, you're just going to be repeating that. So you're going to do 2 rows of double crochet, 2 rows of our mesh pattern, 2 rows of double crochet. So I'll meet you at the end of that. Okay, so I completed my top, and now we're gonna be doing the 2 front pieces for the vest. So to start, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your foundation chain number from your main panel and you're gonna divide it by 2. So for my vest, my foundation chain was 53, and 53 divided by 2 is 26.5. And then you're gonna round down to the closest multiple of 2 plus 1. So for me, it's gonna be 25. So I'm gonna be making a chain of 25. I'm gonna start with a slip knot, and I'm gonna work my chain. Once you have your chain, you're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So it's a repetition of what we were doing for our main panel. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm gonna place a double crochet. And now you're gonna keep working double crochets all the way down your chain, and that will be row 1. So this is the end of row 1. And you should have 23 double crochets. And now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to turn my work over, and I'm going to work a double crochet in each stitch across for row 2. For row 3, we're going to be starting our mesh pattern once again. So I'm going to chain 1, turn my work. I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the 1st stitch. Then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to skip a stitch and work a double crochet in the next one. I'm going to chain 1, skip a stitch, work into the next one. So for row 3 and 4, we are doing our mesh pattern. And then for row 5 and 6, we're gonna be doing 2 rows of double crochet. So I'll meet you at the end of row 6. So now that I have my 6 rows, we're gonna be starting the armpit decrease. So I'm gonna chain 1, and I'm gonna turn my work over. And now I'm gonna be skipping the 1st stitch, and I'm gonna work a double crochet into the 2nd stitch. And now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm gonna skip a stitch and work a double crochet into the next one. So I'm repeating chain 1. I'm repeating my row of mesh. The only difference is that I skipped the 1st stitch here in the beginning. So you're gonna keep going like this until you reach the end. You'll notice once you get to the end that your mesh sequence sort of ends and you still have 1 stitch left, and you do want to work a double crochet into the last stitch. So exceptionally, you will have 2 double crochets here. We want to keep this edge straight because this is the chest area and this is the armpit decrease side. So that is the end of row 7. Now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to turn my work over. So for row 8, I'm going to start with a double crochet in the 1st stitch. And I'm also gonna do a double crochet in the 2nd one. This is in order to keep my mesh sequence aligned. So now we start with the chain of 1 and the sequence. So you're gonna keep going, and I'll show you what to do at the end of row 8. So at the end of row 8, you want to keep going until you have 2 stitches remaining, and you're going to end with a double crochet even though you just did a double crochet. So this is what it looks like, and at this point at the end of row 8, you should have 21 stitches. For row 9, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. And we're going to skip the 1st stitch, and we're gonna start working our double crochets in the 2nd stitch. So we are still decreasing, and at the end of this row, you will have 20 stitches. So you're gonna keep going to the end, and this row is gonna finish straight on this side. So just make sure that you are doing your decreases all on the same side, because this is the armpit decrease. So I'll show you at the end of this row what it looks like. So at the end of row 9, you should have 20 stitches. Now we are going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work over. And for our second row of double crochets, you're going to be working into every stitch except the last one. So we're going to be placing 1 double crochet in each stitch across, except your last one here. So you're going to be going down a stitch once again. And so at the end of row 10, you will have 19 stitches. Now for the next 2 rows, so for row 11 and 12, you're going to be repeating row 7 and 8, these 2 rows right here. So do that, and then we will continue on. So I just ended row 12, and at the end of row 12, you should have 17 stitches. Now we're going to be doing 2 rows of just straight double crochet. So you're going to repeat row 2 down here. So it's just going to be straight 2 rows. So row 13 and 14 is going to be 17 stitches each and just solid double crochet. So I just did my 2 rows of double crochet, and now we're going to start the neckline decrease. So for row 15, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to work a double crochet into our first stitch. And then we're going to chain 1, skip a stitch, work a double crochet into the next one, chain 1, skip a stitch, work a double crochet in the next one. And you're going to continue this until you have 2 stitches remaining. So I have 2 stitches remaining, and I'm going to be working a double crochet in the second last stitch. And I'm not working in my last stitch here because now we're doing a decrease. This was our armpit decrease, and now we're going to be decreasing on this side for the neckline. So you are ending here with 2 double crochets side by side. Now for row 16, you're going to chain 1, turn over your work. We're going to skip the first double crochet, and we're going to work a double crochet in the next one. And now you're just going to continue your sequence. So chain 1, skip a stitch, work on top of your other double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, and you're going to be working this all the way down your row. Now for row 17, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work, and you're gonna work 1 double crochet in every stitch except your last one. So you're just gonna keep going like we were doing before. So at the end of that row, you're gonna leave your last stitch unworked on this side. So at the end of row 17, you will be at 14 stitches. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're gonna turn our work over, and for row 18, we're gonna be doing double crochets, but we are skipping the first stitch. So this row, you'll be working all the way down up to your straight edge. And at the end of row 18, you will have 13 stitches. Now for the rest, we are going, so now this is the end of row 18. I will write it on the screen, but from row 19, 20, 21, 22, you're gonna be repeating rows 15, 16, 17, 18. And then for the last 2 rows, row 23 and 24, you're going to be repeating row 15 and 16. So you're essentially decreasing 1 stitch every single row at this point. So at the end of row 24, you will have 7 stitches left. So I'll meet you at the end of that. So this is what the panel looks like. And now you can simply cut your yarn and pull your yarn through your last loop. And now we will be making a second one of these. So make 2, and we will do the assembly and the border as well as the straps in the front. So now that I have my pieces made, you're going to lay out your pieces like this, and you're gonna want to put your right side towards the inside, and this is just determined based on which side you find is nicer. So I just identified the right sides with these. So your wrong side is facing you and your wrong side is facing the table. Now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna place stitch markers in the corner here and at the end of my 6th row, because this is the seam that we're going to be doing, and I just want to make sure that everything's going to be aligned. So you can go ahead and do that, and you can do the same thing for here if you'd like. And we're going to be doing, so we're going to be closing this seam and the top seam on both sides. So I placed a stitch marker through both of my pieces here, and now you can just turn your work, and we're gonna attach our yarn into the corner here through both panels. And you could just attach it with a knot. And I'm just gonna pull up a loop, and I'm gonna be doing slip stitches. You can use any other method. You can do a mattress stitch, you could do single crochet, it doesn't really matter. And this yarn is very forgiving, so it won't really show if you do choose to use a method that's a little bit more thick. So I'm just gonna work slip stitches, not too tight. And you just wanna make sure that your rows are aligned. So periodically just verify that you are aligned from one side to the other. And you're gonna work all the way up to your stitch marker. So once you've done your seaming on the sides, you're going to repeat the same thing for the 2 straps here. So once you do that, we will do the border along the underarm first. So I'll show you how to do that next. To do the underarm border, you're gonna wanna turn your vest right side out. So this is on the right side where my markers are. And you're gonna wanna attach your yarn in the underarm seam here. Once you have your yarn attached in the underarm, you're going to pull up a loop and do a chain of 1. And now you're going to be working single crochets all the way up your underarm to the top and then all the way back down, and you're going to slip stitch into the first chain that we just did. So you're just going to want to evenly place single crochets. There's no right or wrong space for these, just evenly try and space them out. All right, so I went all the way around and I slip stitched into the first chain, and you're gonna repeat this for the other side. So now we have both of our underarms done, and now we're gonna be doing the border going up the front here, as well as the ties. So you're gonna start by attaching your yarn at the corner down here. And we're also gonna be doing single crochets, so you are gonna start with a chain of 1. And if you want to mark out where your 8th row is, so 2, 4, 6, 38. So I'm gonna put a stitch marker right here. And then I'm also gonna put a stitch marker where my decrease for my neckline starts. So just right here. So that is row 14 is where the decrease starts. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side here. Okay, so now you're going to simply be doing the same thing. We're gonna work single crochets all the way up to our stitch marker. And once we get to the stitch marker, I will show you what we will be doing there. So I'm at my first stitch marker, and here's where we're gonna be doing one of our ties. So from this point, you're going to chain 38. So I have my chain of 38. You can choose to do this shorter. I want it long enough to be able to do a bow. Now we're going to be working back down our chain. And so we're going to be working single crochets, and I'm gonna start in the second chain from my hook. So I'm gonna go in and work a single crochet. So you're gonna keep doing single crochets all the way back down your chain. Once you worked all the way down, you're going to work another single crochet back into the same space that you started your strap. Now you're just gonna continue along your border, and basically you're gonna be repeating these steps once you get to the other stitch marker here. So this is where your second tie is going to be. Once you do the same steps, you're gonna continue up along the neckline, around the back, down the other side, and you're gonna do the same thing to put another tie on this side here, and then you're gonna continue all the way down to the corner, and then you will be done. And there we have it.